Right. And that's lost, right? All we have is the political reason.
Right.
I mean, that's what I think. That's what I think is lost.
Yeah.
And like that's the political reading back into Shakespeare, which is that all there can be is it's just power. Which is why it's fundamentally Marxist or postmodern, whatever. But I think essentially Marxist, which
Right.
everything just reduces to power.
Yeah, exactly. No,
Power dynamics. And
exactly.
obviously there is power dynamics, but that's not the
Yeah.
only that's not the only concern.
When I've been in these conversations, the question I bring up is, let's grant the premise that it's all about power. Which Toni Morrison novel should I read? The Bluest Eye or Beloved? Okay, it's the same author, all characters of color. Is one better than the other? And once you say, and I think Beloved's better than The Bluest Eye, and she would say that too. Well, it's better actually for narrative and aesthetic and rhetorical reasons.
Yeah.
Because politically, they're both echoes. I mean, they deal with marginalization and race.
Yeah.
But one is a better built thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
yeah, it's a good point. And the least point that makes is that there are aesthetic concerns. There are aesthetic interests that make this stuff more than simply, more than simply the power dynamic, the race thing. And it's just more complicated than the simplistic calculi that I think that we kind of lazily rely on, right now, so much of our discourse. And it's childish, it's kind of holding back, contributions that I think smart, thoughtful people of our age could be making, to the humanities and to understanding our times, if they weren't essentially reduced to, in the sense that you just get influenced and addicted by it. Also, in the editorial sense of what you're essentially, if you want to get published, regularly and easily, what you're kind of allowed to say, and so you just trend toward it. And it's not expansive. It's not opening. I mean, how's the book done? Did it sell well?
She organizes it to a large extent by play. So there's like a Timon of Athens chapter and a really great Othello chapter, a really great Merchant chapter, a really great Tempest chapter. There's an epilogue, which is like a reflection. But she writes really eloquently about being a woman of color. And like all thoughtful readers, Zadie Smith's really good on this too. Like, I have no problem seeing myself in these plays. None.
Okay.
So the whole myth that like representation is purely an external reality is itself racist.
Yeah.
And
yes.
Paul,
Jay,
really bad read.
Jay, let's just pause on that point. I mean, that's enormous. What you just said is not a tiny point at all. And it's what I found offensive about reducing representation simply to sort of skin color or something. You don't want to sound ridiculous because that's a thing, and it's not. When we say skin color, we don't just mean it, because there's whole cultures and experience and all that associated with them. But my gosh, if you can't get beneath that, and what I never got was that, I mean, the department we're teaching in here, is the humanities department. And I assume behind that is this at least latent idea that there is something that unites us as human beings that we can all speak to similarly and listen to similarly. And I don't have to have my own sort of closest, smallest, pettiest, distinctions attended to for me to read your book.
And I think we might want to do a podcast on this question, like, what do two English teachers think about what people say multiculturalism is, what we think it is, and like how we need to respond to it as teachers in the 21st century. It might not be a bad thing to chat about, like for an extended period of time.
I would love to do that. And we might be able to roll that out over time, because I think it's important. And I think that's something, if we're trying to talk to teachers in high school today, which is who I consider our core audience, that everyone's talking about it, right? Everyone has to deal with it. And I think we have some thoughtful points on it, and some that might be a tiny bit heretical, but nevertheless, substantive, and useful. What is the good of multiculturalism? But it's not an ultimate good, and it's not an unqualified good either. And there's something about unity too. It's opposite, apparently. It's really good.
And I don't know, this might be Pollyannish, but my thesis is that multiculturalism is the capacity, it ought to create the capacity for empathy when confronted with difference. I think that's what reading imaginative literature that's good does. Like, I think that's what it's been doing this whole time. And I think, like a lot of literary theory and education jargon, we create these little terms to create jobs for people. But there's nothing new under the sun from Ecclesiastes is never more true when it comes to this.
Yeah.
Like, this book really shone a light on Shakespeare's really like, and it's not always woke. I mean, Shakespeare's an Elizabethan. It's not like he's a 21st century New Yorker.
Right.
But that being said, I mean, he's peculiarly, and in a revolutionary way, democratic when it comes to women in the comedies, when it comes to like Gravedigger and 5-1 of Hamlet. Like, there's a whole list of examples of just moments of shocking brilliance from people who are not supposed to be brilliant.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. Who are quote unquote not allowed to be brilliant or were suppressed from their brilliance. But I think this antagonistic reading of history, men versus women, black versus white, rich versus poor, it is such a limited reading and often, I think, really pernicious. You know, it just undermines how you just in representing reality, how people got along, how we still have civilizations or humans on the planet at all. You know, if it was this all out, all against all Hobbesian sort of, you know, war, I just don't think we'd be here anymore, you know, bottom line.
Well,
and I think
if that's how I viewed the world, I wouldn't be an English teacher. That's a waste of time. I would make as much money as possible. I mean, if you have that metaphysics or ethics, more accurately, if you have that ethics and choose to like earn a teacher's salary, you're not a smart person. I'm sorry, like, objectively.